Now, many years ago, I worked my way through school. In fact, I was in seminary in St. Louis as a waiter in a restaurant. It was a very nice restaurant. It was a very expensive restaurant. The prices were very high. And if you worked hard and did your job well, you could get some really big tips and make lots of money. And to do that, you wanted your customers to believe that you really meant it when you asked, "Sir, what can I do for you?" But the truth, in all honesty, was something far different. What really was behind that question was this question. What's in it for me? Because I want those tips. So what can I do for you? I was never pleased with myself when I acted like that. It seemed so cynical, so hypocritical. I'm sure that many of you have felt the same way about many of the things you have done. Caught between a rock and a hard place, you feel that, we should care for others. Yet, if you didn't look out for yourself, you could quickly get lost in the shuffle. So then there are Jesus' troubling words in today's gospel. They criticize our selfish impulses and remind us that whoever wishes to become great must first be a servant and slave of others, instead of always asking, what's in it for me? Jesus wants us to ask our families and our friends and our neighbors and our co-workers and even strangers, what can I do for you? Jesus' disciples in today's gospel are right there with us. They too cannot help but ask, Jesus, what's in it for me? Jesus may have invited them to serve others, but they know what the bottom line is. They know what really matters. They want their places of glory and power and privilege because they deserve it. I mean, they want the best seats in the house. They want a place at the front of the line. They want an expense and account and a paid vacation. They seem so shameless. Teacher, we want you to grant us to sit one at your right hand and one at your left hand in your glory, of course. In other words, Jesus, Lord and Master, we are willing to put up with following you night and day all over the countryside if at the end there is something in it for us. We may scorn their selfish ambition, but are we any different? Just think about it. Ever moved to a new community and gone what today we call church shopping to find the best church that best serves our needs and gives us what will make us happy and satisfied? If I could have a dime for every time people have asked me this question or questions like this, I'd be a rich man. They like to say, Pastor, tell me what I need to do. What do I got to do? To save my kids? Save my job? Save my marriage? Save my health? Save my life? They are sure that if I only give them clear instructions, an easy-to-follow program, the divinely inspired plan for success and prosperity. Oh, they could do it. I too am not immune from the same shameful self-promotion. I too am convinced that I can do what it takes to make it to the front of the line. That I can achieve every pastor's goal, to be liked. But Jesus then says, you don't know what you're asking for. Do we really think we can bargain with Jesus? Do we really think that life is about what's in it for me? When Jesus says, whoever wishes to become great among us must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. Jesus is not offering us another scheme to get ahead. This is not about what's in it for me. This is not like being a waiter in a restaurant where you pretend to care about your customers when you're actually in it for the tips. Oh, Jesus is willing to play along with us. If we really want to make this deal, then he says, do this. Drink the cup that I drink. Be baptized with the baptism with which I will be baptized. To drink the cup is actually a colloquialism, a manner of speaking in that world those days, to describe what it is like to accept your fate. To drink one's cup is to accept the inevitable. And what was Jesus' inevitable fate? What did it mean for him to drink his cup? Death on a cross. 3 times in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus speaks to his disciples openly about this fate, and every time the disciples never get it. In the same way, Jesus spoke of his baptism. It meant much more than the way we have domesticated it today. In that world, baptism meant not just being sprinkled with water or dipped in a pond. Baptism was something far more dramatic. It was nothing like washing your hands or taking a bath. To be baptized was to be submerged, overwhelmed, drowned in water. When the disciples asked, what's in it for me, what they really meant, Jesus, what must we do to get a place of power and privilege so we can boss it and lord it over others? And when Jesus answered that they must drink his cup and be baptized with his baptism, he meant to say, let go of the M&Ms. Let go and die. Surely, Jesus cannot mean that. Surely, we do not need to give up our M&Ms, our treasured ambitions and pressured values to be a servant. Surely, we do not need to talk to someone we dislike. Surely, we do not need to pray for our enemies. They could defeat us. Surely, we do not need to sacrifice for our neighbors. Those neighbors could lower the property values. Surely, we do not need to care for our co-workers. They could take our job. Surely, we do not need to be considerate of our rivals. They could put us out of business. Surely, we do not actually need to take time out of our busy schedules to pray with our children, to speak with them about our faith, to waste time listening to their petty problems and trivial worries. Surely, this could not be what Jesus had in mind when he calls us to be a servant, to drink his cup, and undergo his baptism, to let go of the M&Ms. No human being is willing to make such a sacrifice without the promise of getting something in return. I have never met someone who does not ask, or at least wonder, in the back of their minds, what's in it for me? Nobody has ever done that. Except for one. Except for the one who said, I came not to serve, but to be served, and to give my life as a ransom for many. Yes, watch him. He is the consummate servant. He gives his life away in service to others. What's in it for me does not even cross his mind. He chooses to be a friend of losers and derelicts and outcasts who can give him nothing in return. He keeps on giving all the way to the cross. And his critics there on the cross laugh at him, ridicule him. Pointing to the cross, they snicker. Ha ha! You see, this is what happens to fools who do not look out for themselves. When you never pay attention to what's in it for me, you get baptized in a flood of hostility and drowned in a torrent of indifference by a world that could care less about you. And you end up drinking the cup of death in the grave, 6 feet under, forgotten forever. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. As Jesus hung there dying on the cross, that sure seemed to be the case, didn't it? I mean, if you're not concerned, Jesus, with what's in it for me, no one else is going to care for you either. Look, Jesus sitting there hanging on the cross. Not even God cares. But, remember, folks, the famous but, 3 days later, the apple cart was upset. Life was not what it appeared to be. God raised this loser, this Jesus, from the dead. God said yes to everything that Jesus said and did. Yes, we do not have to live a life as if what's in it for me is all that matters. We do not have to always be filling our wallets and building our resumes. We are not doomed to drink the cup of death and get drowned in a world where nothing lasts, because, in spite of appearances to the contrary, we can trust Jesus and his promise. For God is truly gracious and merciful and slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love, even to selfish, what's in it for me, narcissists like us. Because Jesus lives, all of us phony and hypocritical servants who only, if you're really honest, pretend that we care about someone else, who are really more interested in what's in it for me than what can I do for you. folks like that, like us, are forgiven. Jesus speaks of that marvelous reversal of fortune at the end of today's gospel. He promises that his impending death in Jerusalem will not be a senseless tragedy, but, as he says, a ransom for many. Now, what's a ransom? A ransom is what you pay a jailer to get set a prisoner free. Jesus promises that his coming death will be his ransom, his payment, his sacrifice for us. He will set us free from our obsession with ourselves. He sets us free even from God's own criticism of our selfishness and faithlessness. For Jesus exchanges his freedom for our bondage. Those of you who remember that Faith Seeking Understanding video series we did last spring, one of the episodes was about what Martin Luther described as God's sweet swap, God's happy exchange for us. Jesus exchanges his fate for our fate. Jesus gives us his life and freedom, and we get to give him our bondage to this deadly obsession with ourselves. Oh my! What a glorious and sweet swap it is! The obsession with survival and getting ahead enslaves James and John, and as we see, all of the disciples, and even us. We can't help ourselves. We can't stop asking, what's in it for me? We plot and plan to earn our places of privilege beside Jesus. Oh, but Jesus has ransomed us. Jesus has offered us a way out. We can die to our old ways. Our old life was drowned in the waters of holy baptism. God has raised us to new life with Jesus. We did not have to earn it, deserve it, or merit it. And with the best seats in a house, we get to sit at Jesus' right hand and left hand. We get to feast at his table and let go of the law of those M&Ms that are killing us. We no longer have to be on the make. You know what that means. We do not always have to cover our bases. We get to forget about ourselves. Instead of asking, what's in it for me, we can ask, what can I do for you? Instead of always looking to be served, we can serve the new neighbors. We get to talk to the lonely kid sitting at the back of the lunchroom because no one else thinks he's cool enough to sit next to. We greet a visitor on Sunday morning, actually taking time to introduce ourselves and to get to know them, instead of always fretting about what we can do to get them to join our church. We choose to help a neighbor, assist a coworker, greet a stranger, warn someone in danger, give of our precious time to volunteer, take time to listen instead of always passing judgment, instead of always talking over someone else. We can forgive instead of begrudge. All without regard for the bottom line of what's in it for me. Because Jesus has turned what's in it for me into, what can I do for you? Just like him. And it is such a joy, such a gift. What a wonderful way to live. And for that, what can we say to our God on this morning? You remember? Thanks be to God.